Chattanooga, the Union Army is in Chattanooga and they're under siege. And the Confederates have surrounded them all along Missionary Ridge right here.
Oh.
And so the Confederates are all along the top of that ridge, 55,000 Confederates, all the way to the top of Lookout Mountain.
当时那个南北内战啊，南军有5万人啊，北军有4万多人，在这里激战啊，这个就是美国内战的一个转折点。从这之后呢，美国这个南军啊就不断的在失败。
So for 2 months, the Union soldiers are under siege, and during that 2 months, Grant wins his battle in Mississippi, which is pretty far away.
Okay.
He and Sherman win the Battle of Vicksburg, and they decide to come to Chattanooga to break the siege.
Oh.
And they come to Chattanooga through that pass right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
Okay.
And when they come to Chattanooga, they make a battle plan, and they're going to attack that ridge right there.
当时北军被包围了啊，南军一直围着他们，想要饿死他们。结果这个联邦军队的这个将军格兰特从密西西比赶过来解围。
So here's the unique thing. Come out here. Let me show you.
我现在在跟这个历史学家
You see that hill right there?
对，那边有个山啊。
That hill looks like it's part of this ridge right here.
哦，这整个一个山脉是。
But it's not. You can't see it, but that hill's by itself. So the battle plan is to have Sherman cross the river in the north and attack that hill.
就是当时北军呢希望有一个叫Sherman将军进攻对面的那个山岭。
And the rest of the Union forces are just to stay right here so that Bragg cannot move his forces. Sherman attacks on that side. He's going to attack on that side, and he's just going to roll down the ridge and destroy the whole.
说北军从那边山岭上过来，然后再从外围包围住南军。
But he's stopped at that point by a famous Confederate general named Cleveland.
当时呢，南军有一个将军叫克雷格，阻止了Sherman将军的进攻。
Now, when Sherman gets stopped there, Grant is fearful that Bragg, who's on that ridge, is going to move his forces to that side and destroy Sherman. So he orders the entire Union Army to go forward and make a show of force in these fields out here. They're not supposed to attack the ridge because he thought that couldn't be done.
当时就是这个北军为了显示力量，在这个对面的这个山岭上大批的集结。
But when the Union Army goes out to the bottom of the ridge, they realize that they're under fire from the top.
So on the top of the Union soldiers,
the Confederates are on the top.
Okay.
When the Union Army goes out there, Brian, they're not supposed to go up to the top of the ridge.
Okay.
But what happens is the Union Army goes out there and they don't stop. They go all the way to the top of the ridge, and Grant gets angry. He turns to General Thomas, who's actually leading the assault. He says, "What the hell are they going to the top of the ridge for? I just want them to make a show of force."
当时这个北军呢，就朝着那个山岭进军，你知道吧？只不过呢，这个格兰特将军让他们不要上山，你知道吧？因为那个山顶上全是南军，结果呢，这些军队呢没有听命令，一直在进攻这个山岭上的南军。So what happened?
Well, here's what they found out. Bragg has positioned all of his men and his cannons in the wrong spot. He's positioned them at the top of the hill back here.
Okay.
So if you're back here, can you shoot anybody at the bottom of the hill? You can't shoot them at the bottom of the hill.
Right.
Because you can't see them.
Yes.
So he made a mistake and put all of his cannons. Now, these cannons we're talking about here, but up on that ridge, if you imagine the cannons are at the top of the hill, they should have been at the front of the hill.
So cannot reach to the hill, right?
No, if you come out here and look at something.
所以当时他们把这个炮火
There's two crests to any type of a ridge. There's the top, which is the crest, and then there's the military crest. Bragg's made this terrible mistake, and he's put all of his cannons at the top when he should have put them.
当时这些火炮啊，都是在这边上，你看到没有？在这上头。他说应该再把炮啊挪到前沿这儿来，这样子才能够看到底下的士兵啊，然后能够轰击这个南军。我估计他是把自己给轰了，可能。
Should have put them out here.
Okay, so what happened?
So what happened was when the Union soldiers went out there.
Uh-huh.
When they were out in the field, they were under heavy fire from the top of the ridge, but they realized if we move closer, they can't shoot us. So they on their own went closer. When the closer they got, they realized, hell, the Confederates are retreating. We're just going to keep going. So they went all the way to the top of the hill. So Bragg is scorned even to this day as being an idiot because he made a mistake on the ridge. As you can see, he should have been able to hold that ridge against an army 10 times the size of the Union Army, but he didn't.
So eventually the Union Army took over.
They take the ridge, and the Confederates retreat, except down here where Claiborne is. Claiborne doesn't retreat. He wins his battle against Sherman. He stays to the very end. And then he realizes everybody on that whole ridge has left. They're gone.
当时在这个山岭上的南军其实人数非常的多，但是他们后来撤退了，所以北军很快就占领了这个山岭。
But the great thing about Chattanooga is that we got Grant here.
Yes.
Not many places actually have General Grant.
当时格兰特将军就在这里作战指挥了。格兰特后来成为美国总统啊，在林肯之
And
后。
we had General Claiborne, and we had Sherman, and we had Sheridan. Sheridan's another famous general.
哦，当时
And Sheridan was right over here. He's one of the generals that went out across and up to the top.
So how many people get killed in this battle?
You know what? 10,000 people were wounded,
哦
and only about 1,000 were killed.
哦，当时双方死了1000多人，在这场战斗中死了1000多人，伤了1万多人。当时这是一个主要战场。
But here's what you have to imagine: the Confederate soldiers were demoralized.
Right.
They hated their general. They hated Bragg. They'd been here in the cold. They could see the war was turning against them. They had just lost at Gettysburg.
Yeah.
They just lost at Vicksburg, and so they could sense the war was turning against them. And so they weren't happy up there. So when the Union pushed forward and they won, and when one guy started, actually they had rifle pits at the bottom of the ridge.
Oh.
And when those guys at the bottom of the ridge over there ran to the top of the ridge, retreating, then all the soldiers at the top were like, "Oh hell, it's over," and they all start running.
OK，
You know,
当时这个南军的士气
but
很低落，
one place where they didn't
所以
run
北军一进军
is
他
on
们就
that
跑了。
side where Claiborne.
OK，
And we'll go visit that. It's called the Sherman Reservation.
嗯
And the reason it's very famous is because General Sherman is the general that drove from here to Atlanta and to the sea and burned the South.
OK，
So he's very famous. But the one place where they kicked his ass and stopped him was right down there on the end of this ridge.
So General Sherman lost over
He
there.
loses over there.
Oh.
Yeah, one of the very few battles that Sherman is a tactical loss because eventually he wins, but he gets his ass kicked right over there.
I see.
We'll go visit.
就在这山的对面那边，北军的将军很有名的将军叫做 Sherman， 在那里呢就是大吃了一场败仗啊，因为那边南方的克雷顿将军很厉害。啊，这里非常漂亮啊，这是这个纪念碑。好，大家啊，我就是给大家现场啊记录一下，因为我对美国的内战历史非常感兴趣，所以我请了这位历史学家给我介绍啊，咱们下一集再见。